Welcome, welcome. Thank you back for a deeper dive here in our Q&A session. Thank God for the time, and thank you for being patient as the pastor ran a little over. Uh, but we do want to take a little deeper dive today into this scripture. Again, we're looking at the book of Hebrews. We focused in on verses 19 through 25. But I want to say that in order for it to get a full, to get an understanding of what the writer of the book of Hebrews, the point that he's making now in chapter 10, it centers and partly around the fact that the people, if you go back to chapter 2, verse 3, when he talks about them neglecting their salvation, and then in chapter 6, verse 1, when he starts talking about refusing to grow into maturity as believers. Uh, and we see this so deeply. And so what he's doing is he's exhorting them to go ahead and accept the fact that Jesus Christ has paid the price for them, that all that they need to do is walk in the truth and walk in the faith, walk in the hope, walk in the trust that Jesus has paved the way, that they have direct access to God, and they have the power that comes along with that. It is this power that is allowing them to be able to overcome the circumstances and the situations in which they're being faced with in that time of trouble in which they were. It was because of the difficulties of the time, the persecution of Christians, the persecution of Christians by Jews, the persecutions of Christians by other religions and other cults and other fractions, and even some within Christendom who had a false understanding of what Christendom was, were persecuting them and attempting to cause them to turn away from the faith and causing them to take all types of different avenues. And that's why they had continued, some of them were continuing in their flesh. They were continuing to do the very things that when they came into the church, they were told and they had desired to get rid of. They put themselves in shackles again. And so the author of Hebrews here is giving them the reassurance, giving them the confidence, giving them the boldness that Jesus Christ was a trailblazer. He went before us. He has already cleared the way for us. He comes back to us, and now he will lead us in and through and to the Father himself. And so it is this reassurance, and in this you have to take this away from that. You have to allow this to grow in you. This is a point of maturity within us that has to take place. This is what allows us to overcome the fear of the day. It allows us to be able to boldly go before God, to be in his presence, to pour out to him our hearts, our minds, our souls, to have him pour into us his will and his assurance, his strength, his power, that we might then go back into a lost and dying world and be the example for which he would have us to be. The assurance to a lost and dying world that there is a new way, a living God, an active God, an engaged God, a purposeful God who loves us in spite of our circumstance and situation, in spite of what they would call our lowly station, and that is many of the Christians were poor. Many of the Christians obviously were being attacked and being villainized and being ostracized at the time. And so what the writer of Hebrews is giving us is this strength, that the curtain has been torn. There's no more obstacles. There's nothing else. There's no more in-betweens. You don't have to go through anyone. You don't have to have a pope. You don't have to have a priest. You don't have to have a pastor. You don't have to have a prophet. You don't have to have any of that. You and you alone can go before God, very God, and petition for yourself, by yourself, in the presence of him who has Jesus Christ as your high priest, your great high priest, sitting at his right hand, interceding on your behalf. Why? Because he is not the steward, but he is the head of the house that you have entered. And so we have to come to grips with that for ourselves. One of our issues that we have is this lack of maturity. And again, if you go to chapter 6, you will begin to see and read there in chapter 6 as it relates to that. I want to just give us a little more focus on how the writer of Hebrews takes faith, hope, trustworthiness, and love, and good works. There's always a discussion about our works. And everybody is clear that you cannot work your way to your salvation. That's clear. But you also, if you have no works, right, you cannot demonstrate your salvation. Your salvation to a lost and dying world is a demonstration. It is a sign. You see, the lost and dying world are constantly seeking for signs. The Jews were constantly asking Jesus, show us a sign, show us a sign, show us a sign. Why? Because their faith was so weak. But we know that we will strengthen faith by demonstrating who God is in us. Within that demonstration also, man, creates a greater hold and a greater strength for faith. And faith, we go out further and we walk out a little further, even though we don't know exactly what that is, but we're in full faith because we have a trustworthy God that we've seen demonstrated in the life of those who have said that that is their God, who is actively engaged in their lives. Your life has to be an active, engaging example of who Jesus Christ is. Every time we fail to be an active and engaging example of who Jesus Christ is, we bring doubt to who Jesus Christ is. We bring doubt to the power of Jesus Christ. We bring doubt to what Jesus can do or will do, if you will, right? Because those who see in us and what they perceive to be an inactive God then turn away from Jesus. Why go to him? They already have that. And so we have to be about getting about those good works. And he has added that in this scripture. When he goes into 24, he says, let us take a thought of how to spur one another on to love and good works. Love is exampled in our good works. So we will not abandon our meetings because we're doing the good works for one another. It is people that we're doing the good works for. It is people that we're demonstrating the good works to. It is people who we are bringing into the fold that might see how Jesus is all for, it's all about him, but it was for us. And so we have to have that interface and have that meeting, have that mingling. We cannot be afraid of this world, which means we cannot be afraid of our fellow man, of our fellow persons. We have to engage. That doesn't mean you won't be persecuted. In fact, it means you will be persecuted. The scriptures tell that. You will be persecuted. Blessed are those that are persecuted for my name's sake. So it's a part of what we do. It's a part of what will be happening. It's a part of our engaging. So I say, draw near to God. Do not be afraid. We all will have that day when we come before our living God and we give the account. And so let us not be afraid of that. Let us hold on to the faith, hope, love of a trustworthy God. Let us demonstrate that faith, hope, love, and trust in him through our good works. And with that, we've just had a little deeper dive. So I pray that you'll have a wonderful and peaceful rest of your weekend that will prepare you for your week. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next week and joining in with you next week. Remember, the week after that, we will not have a deeper dive, and we will not be live, okay? God bless.